We are back on Inside Politics. Our guest today is Tennessee House Speaker Cameron Sexton. Mr. Speaker, it seems that state and local governments in the state are kind of always at odds with each other. And one of the bills that's up this time that local officials feel is kind of intruding into their area is to put a 5% cap on property tax increases in a given year without a voter referendum. Is that an area that the legislature really needs to get into? The property tax has been the local domain. The state doesn't have a state property tax. You live basically off the sales tax.
That's correct, or franchise excise tax, yes. Right. But I mean, that's a bill put forth by the Beacon Center of Tennessee. When you talk to them, other states have a very similar policy, many dozen. And so what this also would allow them, if you don't increase it in 1 year, you can roll that over to another year. It's one of these bills that will start a discussion, and having legislation there to start a discussion is never a bad thing. How it will end up, we're not sure.
So you're not sure whether you're supporting it, but you think it's something that ought to be debated?
I think it needs to be debated and really see how many counties or how many cities are raising property taxes more than that level and take a look at it.
Last summer, you were quite outspoken about thinking that Nashville was becoming a sanctuary city. Do you still feel that way? Has that matter been resolved now that the elections in Nashville have been resolved?
I mean, I think it's been resolved in the effect that Mayor Cooper has taken back the executive order of Mayor Briley.
Several counties and other smaller cities around Tennessee are adopting legislation that would make their communities sanctuary communities for guns in the Second Amendment. Is that something that we ought to do on a hodgepodge basis across the state? Is the legislature itself going to do that for the entire state?
Well, no, we haven't had that discussion yet. We'll take a look at it. Members are talking about using the term, watching what the counties are doing. I'm not really sure. You know, we are a very pro-Second Amendment state and making sure that we protect your right to own a gun.
President Trump often talks about fake news. One of your members, Representative Van Huss, I believe up in Upper East Tennessee, has a resolution in the legislature that basically says CNN and some other outlets for the news on a national basis are fake news. Is that an area that the legislature wants to get into, really?
Well, any member has the autonomy to file 15 bills in the House of Representatives. That's one of his 15 bills that he feels strongly in, and we don't know if he's going to run it or not. Or
if it was one of your 15 bills, would it have made your cut?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I'm not filing any bills this year, so I'm filing caption bills.
When you were elected last summer, you were on this program and mentioned about you wanted to get both sides of the aisle, lawmakers, to come together and do projects together, public service projects. Have you done one of those yet? What's the status of that?
We have. So at the end of last year, we were in Memphis for an event, and we brought people in. We did 2 days at a Habitat Restore place and then St. Jude's Hospital.
Governor Lee has also appointed 2 prominent African Americans to put on the state Capitol Commission. This controversy about what to do about Nathan Bedford Forrest and the bus that's outside the state, in both chambers of the legislature, goes on and on. Is it time that we come to a close one way or the other about this? I mean, it comes up every year, and it seems to be getting more and more of an angrier debate about the whole thing. Should it stay? Should it go? Should some context be added to it?
I mean, there's a bill up this week in naming and designating. Representative Staples from Knoxville had that bill. It was debated, I think, an hour and a half, and then they rolled it to next week to continue the debate. It was a very civil debate, I will give it that, and a lot of people had voiced their concerns on both sides. It's one of these things where we're going to take a look at it and see what the state Capitol Commission does and Historical Commission, if they want to add context, rotate it, or do nothing.
And you may have another controversy coming up about statues along the state capitol grounds, with moving putting a Davy Crockett statue up, which has been authorized but not put any place, and moving it away from the Edward Ward Carmack statue that sits right in front of the state capitol, overlooking the Legislative Plaza. Are we going to fight about all these statues up on there?
Well, I don't know. I mean, it was an idea put forth. We'll just have to wait and see how it goes. I mean, there's 5,000 bills that get filed over a 2-year period. So,
last year, California passed a bill that would allow, it's quite controversial, allow college athletes to make money off their autographs and sign endorsement deals. We now have a bill like that pending in Tennessee. What are your thoughts about doing that? Is that the kind of thing we want to do?
I'm sorry, say that again.
Well, do you support a bill like that? They say the time has come for college athletes to be able to get paid for their images and for what they do on the field.
Yeah, well, I see both sides of it. You know, the NCAA doesn't allow them to work, which you understand because of past booster problems. But then you also understand, and you have to look at it from the standpoint, if you're an SEC school compared to a non-SEC school to an NAI school, and you're trying to recruit individuals, the more revenue you get in, the more theoretically you can pay somebody. So does that create an unfair advantage in those schools when they're trying to recruit athletes as well? So I think it's double.
Have you thought about how much money somebody like a Peyton Manning would have made under that before when he was a big star over at Tennessee?
Maybe, but you also have to think if that was Peyton Manning, would Tennessee have been the place he went at that time based on the TV contracts and what he would have been paid if somebody else could have paid him more?
And is it fair to the smaller colleges, because the chances are one of their players getting one of those is not going to be very
That's correct,
high.
and that's where you get to when you're looking at Carson Newman's Tennessee Tech, MTSU, compared to University of Memphis and Tennessee.
You mentioned there's 5,000 bills that are filed just about every year. When he had the lieutenant governor in here earlier, he mentioned that he hoped to get everything done because when this session ends, that's it. It's sine die. The 111th General Assembly is over. He wants to be done by sometime in April, perhaps even before Easter, maybe sometime Holy Week. Does that schedule sound right to you? Is that you think we'd get everything wrapped up, a budget passed, and go home?
I mean, I think so. You know, part of that process is a lot of House resolutions, joint resolutions, private acts. So there's a lot more that goes to it that doesn't get debated too much. But what I will say is, hopefully we'll be out by the end of April. We hope to. We hope to have a budget sometime before Easter, or right after Easter.
So maybe a couple of weeks later than what he was talking about.
We'll see. I mean, the timeline to get then, you start working backwards. Committees would have to start shutting down in the House. We move a little bit slower because we have subcommittees. So we'll work with him. You know, we'll be out.
Speaker Sexton, thanks you so much for coming on the show. Appreciate it. Have you on in the future.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us this week on Inside Politics. Hope you'll be back here again for a future show. If you can't get enough politics in the meantime, go to the News Channel 5 website. You'll find my Capitol View commentary there. There's new commentary posted every Friday afternoon. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we'll see you back here next time. Goodbye.